Hello there, everybody. How are you doing on this here Monday? I hope you are doing well. Thank you for tuning in and dropping by. It is a honor to have you, and I love it. Hope you had a great weekend, and what a freaking light show. If you got to see the Northern Lights, wow. Gilbert sent me some phenomenal pictures and probably be sharing those this week as well. So, uh, anyway, so there I am. Hey, Steiger, you're looking good, dude. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I love the time travel. Uh, hey, the speaking favor over us, nothing missing, nothing broken. That's it. Got to have the favor. I don't care what anyone says. Hello, chat room. What's up, everybody? So good to see everyone. Scotty boy, what's up? Blazing River, Merlin, how are you doing? Loretta, Melissa. Boy, I think there were others in there as I saw. Saturnarian Sun, good to see you, Emperor Rex. And let me just see who else. Grace, how are you, my dear? Good to see you. Abbott, hello. Gilbert, what's up, brother? Good to see you as well. And yeah, and all the rest of you. Thank you. Um, yeah, that was quite the sight. And and then if you had problems this weekend in doing your kind of business, like Chloe, yeah, that was all part of that. And then you got that other extreme. I heard this story. Someone said, well, this was harp. Really? Okay. I ain't gonna bust your bubble. Yeah. You're free to believe whatever you want to. That's what makes this place such a freaking trip. And it's a trip. Paul Joe, what's up? And Greedy, good to see you as well. Um, yeah. Hey, the cicadas are here. I don't think we have them as bad as in other areas, but man, they are some weird looking creatures. Those big old red eyes when you look at them. And the cacophony of their sounds. Not real loud, but it's there. So, Mary Wins, how are you been? Good to see you. Love and favor, says Melissa. And the light show was awesome. Yeah, I mean, wow. Things are a changing. I had a great weekend. Busted my ass working for one day, which is good. You know, where you get so dog ass tired, it's like, man, you sit down and you go, wow, amazing how much energy it takes just to keep these bodies standing. I would say erect, but someone would find something to say about that. Yeah. All right. So, as everybody, John Price, what's up? Good to see you. If we were lucky, it was hard. Yeah, it's like if that was only the case, you could say, okay, but now the old magneto paws are protective shield, shields up. No, no, they're getting weak. Like an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Captain, if we take another hit, our shields will be down. Well, all the evidence points to that's where it's heading. So get ready, strap in, and that's all I can say. Get prepared. Millie, good to see you as well. I really do appreciate all of you. I wasn't even going to do a show today. And then I said, nope, nope, nope. So I spent the greater day yesterday um, reading this book. And I have to tell you, it is well thought out, extremely well reasoned, and it's one everybody should truly read. Um, we talk about here in this country, the United States, you hear the term religious freedom, religious liberties. And that colloquialism of that concept, that idea, has unfortunately been hijacked by one particular group. And if you are like myself, conservative, I was at one time, started out as a Democrat, became a Republican, and really got involved in politics, was a registered lobbyist. I, you know, figured out, got to know the system. I figured it out. It's really messed up. But there was a time where, you know, I and Lynn, um, we got invited to quite a bit events, I will put it that way. Met a lot of people. But then they all want one thing. They just, if you got money, they want your money. So, but anyway, and the thing was, I was proud. I was a born again believer, conservative Christian, was involved in a number of political movements. I think back, oddly enough, President Carter was, and he's still alive, was really kind of the first beginnings of that. We went to Washington for Jesus. It was a huge thing. I mean, 4 million people turned out for that. Carter never came by, but yet I remember so many politicians. Congressman Robert Young, I remember, got to know him really well. But anyway, and we thought that this was the total expression of a great country. We had the religious freedoms, the liberties to practice our belief, and we were Christians because the United States, is a Christian nation. And by God, we're the only ones that had the right to represent the Almighty in Congress, in the lobbying halls, and the back rooms. It was God and Christians. And if you went opposed to that, wasn't good. And actually, it was the Evangelical Movement that got behind Ronald Reagan, a one-time proud Democrat, actor, but he was a hell of a communicator, there's no doubt about it. And out of that movement, a lot of different things began to happen. I was a part of if you looked up the name, you would see in Wikipedia that it was, the extreme far-right religious private political organizations. Cost a lot of fucking money to get into it. But the exchange is that you were doing God's will. And by God, you got to meet other politicians, sit down with them, discuss policy, ideas. I was in a number of those meetings, but it was always because I was a good Christian. And it was all about fighting the make-believe opposition, because the opposition were the Democrats. Democrats are just heathens. And this is all to a point. Now, ask the question in here, do you believe there is truth? Then define that truth. Do you really believe truth exists? The evidence would say no, that does not exist. Only perception. Anyway, this book, Speak of the Devil, it is, if you want to buy it, I would, it is good to have in your library. It is a good discussion as to what does words mean, contracts. In this case, if you're a U.S. citizen, you have a contract called the Declaration of Independence and subsequently the Bill of Rights. Now, in those rights gives you as no other nation has, certain standing. That's important. We are not a democracy. We have evolved into one. We were a republic. Now, republics are very strong. Democracies are not. All democracies fail. It's just a fact. We've had two of the greatest democracies in our memory of our history: Greece, Rome. Everybody idolizes Rome. Rome was fucking brutal. If you were a slave, a non-citizen, you had no rights. You were fodder. But anyway, this book gets into, well, so who is God? A very fundamental question. I'm asking everyone in the chat room, please answer this. And if you're watching this, please give me the respect by answering. Do you believe there is a God? Yes or no? Very simple. People can't seem to answer the question about is there truth. But so, do you believe in God? Do you believe there is a God? That's important because there becomes a fundamental problem. The vast majority of human beings today have the idea of a God, a deity that comes from the Middle East, of a small country. Actually, it was an ancient Mesopotamian deity that now has assumed the rank as God. You talk to the man on the street, who is God? They'll tell you God is a Christian. Well, maybe he might be Jew. I don't know. Might be a Muslim. I'm not sure. Might be a Hebrew. I'm not sure. But yet, that context, that frame, has been predicated and built on a perception that there is only a God, a supreme God that happened to be Jewish, and then somehow made a miraculous conversion to be Christian. That's the only God. Because in the United States, where we get to this foundation of religious liberties, religious freedom, it is predicated upon one God, of a certain belief, a certain religion. No one else is allowed to express it, although the very Bill of Rights that they hold up as their religious freedoms, if you attack that, then you're a bigot. You're an anti-God. Even if you come and say, but wait a minute, how do you know that that's God? So God is what, a Hebrew, that God invents religions? Is this what happens? And if that's the case, then in the specific case with two court cases, the one with Oklahoma and the other in Texas, dealing with the fact, particularly the one in Texas, is God a reality? Is God real? From a mere, and this is important, legal term, how is God defined? Now, these two cases were brought by the ACLU and individuals that were coming against, particularly in the case in Oklahoma, when the Satanic Temple wanted to bring in a statute of Baphomet. Now, the thing about it is, the ignorance here is most people would find out who Baphomet is. It's not the devil. It's been associated with it because of a certain religion. Everything that we perceive about evil, about the devil, about Satan, comes from one mindset. And everyone has accepted carte blanche as being reality. So the cases were brought against, particularly in Oklahoma, was that where you're going to display the Ten Commandments. That is a religious document. But the Oklahoma legislator came in with their House bill, forget which one it is specifically in here, that said, well, no, we're not violating the First Amendment here. No, 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 no. That's not what's happening. We display the Ten Commandments because it is historical. And historical benefits the people. It provides peace, prosperity, and understanding. Literally what they wrote. And we can't have anything that violates that. Well, they got smacked down. So they're in their so-called wisdom could not stand the fact that there would be the antithesis of what they have defined as God standing next to it. But yet, the very foundation of the law states that the federal government, no state government, whether it's the state or the federal, will endorse or create a religion. But yet, you have in Capitol buildings the fucking Ten Commandments. What are the fucking Ten Commandments? Well, you would hear these legislators, particularly right-wingers, but oddly enough, far left gets in there. Well, the Ten Commandments are the foundation of which mankind has predicated law upon. It teaches morality, it teaches consequences, and it teaches the foundation that every human being needs. That is nothing more than religious propaganda. But the problem is, even in paganism, that's now seeing the single largest resurgence ever, have been indoctrinated to the same thing. Their perception of God is that, well, there's this God, and then there's the anti-type God. Now, pagans can't define what a God is because there is no single God in paganism. But neither can Christianity. Neither can Judaism. We can take all the religions. No one has ever seen these beings, and if you say that there are writings from these beings, then you're using witchcraft. Because the only way that these so-called writings came about was that they were either fraudulently made up in a sick imagination, or they were channeling to something. Today, we operate our lives under this false guise of karma. We really think that a fucking God gives a crap what you do? But no. You got law that says there is this God, and it is a God of law. But there's no proof of that. There's no proof of its existence. There's no proof of its reality. But the vast majority perceive it as truth. Now, when you have a counter thought, such as Satanism, unfortunately, even the name, we are so heavily indoctrinated. We are fools. Humanity is a fool. We believe shit that doesn't even exist. The internet is full of it. YouTube, I would say 70% of the content on YouTube is bullshit. Just humans. You know, they go this way, that way, this way. We have no stability. Because when you only have one voice that represents something as monumental as a creator, a supreme being, a God, it's paramount. It is the paramount, of any society. Today, we do not have religious freedom in the United States. We do not have religious liberties. They're only reserved for one group, Christians. Jews are second, and everybody else falls into the caste system, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. That is not enlightenment. The whole metaphysical movement is predicated on a false perception because it's designed to be the antithesis. But if it's designed to be the antithesis of something that doesn't actually exist, then it's all predicated on a lie. That's why politicians lie, governments lie, corporations lie, churches lie, individual lies. We live in a reality of lies. Oh, no, no, no. Everyone's going to get real self-righteous here. Well, Wayne, I don't lie. I endeavor to tell the truth. What's the truth? You can't define it. You can't define God. Oh, you can give me some esoteric, definition. But again, we have been so conditioned from the moment we come into this reality of accepting a false perception as the real truth. All of our customs, death, the whole death industry, predicated on the perpetuating the same idea. You have near-death experiences where people are meeting Jesus and they're meeting God and they're meeting Allah. But wait a minute, they only meet Allah if they're primarily Muslim. How come no Christian meets Allah? How come no Christian meets Jehovah? But yet, if you have someone of the Jewish faith, are they going to meet Jesus? Or are they going to meet this Christian God? To them, it's a foreign God. Doesn't exist. There's no foundation to the religion. I've said this many times, and looking forward to doing interviewing with these good people, is the fact that you cannot tell me in the Bible where the Christian God comes from. Where does Allah come from? We get the story of the Hebrew, but then that in itself begs the question, then what happened to Enki and Enlil? How about Brahma? How about Kali? All existed before this mind virus set in. But we're talking religious freedoms. Now, if you go further with this, there is the saying, well, God never lies. Really? So thou shalt not kill or commit murder. I command thee in the name of God to go forth and wipe out the Hittites. Well, even the Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace, but division. I came to divide and by the sword. Now, I can't find one freaking place again where this Baphomet, this Lucifer, ever got involved in that. But no, that's extreme, Wayne. Satanists, Luciferians. The fact that if Satan can't exist if this other God doesn't exist either. But now if you say it exists, well, then now we can get into angels and demons. And boy, we can just really, I'll sell you books and I'll sell you the charms and all the other crap that goes with it. And I mean, if you take it to the point, then we ought to make Satan the national god of the United States. Because the United States in its government is truly Satanist. I don't follow this thing that wrote the so-called 10 Commandments. That don't exist. But boy, we like this other one because we can lie, cheat, steal, deceive, and we can all get away with it because guess what? This is what we really serve. But the problem is with that, there is no association with Satan or Lucifer in any of those vices. There's no writings that Lucifer is a liar. Now, you have a writing over in this New Testament, again, you can't show me where this God comes from, where this supposed individual said, well, Satan is the father of all lies. How does that happen? When actually the word Satan never existed to mean exactly an entity. It was more of a, call it a thought, reaction, emotion maybe. A force? No. But it's the father of all lies. And again, then that goes back then saying, well, then how did imperfection come from perfection? How did a lie come from the truth? If it started out as the truth, then how could a lie ever been accepted? because the truth would be very obvious that it was a lie. Well, then it would be completely obliterated. It wouldn't continue on. How do you get lie out of truth? But yet, that's what our species does. And we do it so well. To define truth. And again, this so-called truth that there's only one truth, one group has the political power, one group has the economic power as defining what truth is, better yet, what a lie is. Liars. You can look at today's political environment. Lies. Show me one news media outlet, mainstream, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, CBS, all the rest of them. They lie. Their whole platforms are promoting a perception of truth. But if you don't accept that perception, then it's a lie. It's a direct lie. It's there to deceive you. It's there to cause an illusion. And then you get the liars calling the liars liars, and the liars start calling the other liars liars. And then all we have is what? Truth? When everybody is a liar, how can there be any truth at all? Now you know what my weekend was like. But this is a discussion. This channel is not fun and games. This is not the, let me, all the ridiculousness when you see what people are drawn towards. It's useless mental fodder. They want to be entertained. What did Russell Crowe say in Gladiator? Are you entertained? Tell me, are you fucking entertained? Is that what you're looking for? Because we can't have any real hard discussions here, can we? Because that ain't popular. Well, hell, you won't even get 1,000 views on that. People are going to turn that off and walk away. And there's the whole problem. You don't want to think. But this group does. Now, I don't know what truth is. I really don't. I spent some time in deep meditation last night, just reaching out there and saying, well, God. I have no fucking idea what God is or is not. 50 years of my life was building a construct. It was all a lie. People say, well, you just become cynical. That, if you can't figure out what God is good. How do you know that? Who told you God is good? It's a cliche. God is good all the time. I was in fucking meetings all the time where you say that bullshit. Why? Because we have to convince everybody else of believing the fucking lie. That's why we say it. Oh, brother, we love you. Bullshit. Well, you just give $100 and I'm going to tell you God is going to bless you and open the windows of heaven and give you a mighty return. Who got that? I mean, what? Did God come knocking at the door? Is God the banker? I mean, that's what prayer does, right? You're praying to God to win the lottery. You're praying to God to heal someone. You're praying to God that this bill will be paid. You're praying to God to bring forth a new president. Really? Yeah. So I wrote here, I said, do we actually know who we are? Is the reason we cannot remember is that this is a trap? It's an illusion, a reality. my personal conclusion, well, I don't know if it's a conclusion, I'm certainly seeing a destination, that this is not life. Everything here dies. I've said that this is the death realm, but we call it life. And many people will fight it even into death, not realizing that death is actually the doorway to life. Because if there isn't life on the other side, then what is there? Nothing. And if it's death, that's not life. I have to read some of this. And I hope you're finding the conversation, you know, stimulating, because it's important. I mean, if you look at the environment today out here, I mean, we're in a world of hurt. I mean, for me, it's concerning because now you have this opposite. Joe Biden is the devil. He's evil. He's evil in full manifestation. Donald John Trump is the Savior, anointed by God, prophecies about him. And if you try to tell the truth on Biden is just a crook, always has been. I mean, that isn't anything new. I met Robert Byrd, Senator Byrd, one time, and he actually said that about Biden. Biden was just a senator. He says, that's the line of son of a bitch that's in the whole damn state Senate. And, everyone knows it. But now you've got these dichotomies. One, people are elevating to the new Messiah, the Savior. The other one is the Antichrist, the antithesis of all that is good and righteousness. Freaking nuts. I learned a long time ago, you don't trust any man. Don't trust any politician. Never. They'll always let you down. The same thing with the religious people, leaders. They'll always let you down. I always thought it was interesting in the prosperity movement how the preachers that are preaching prosperity seem to be the only ones getting rich. Because in those crusades, like with Joyce Myers, you can pull in $1 million. Joel Osteen's church, on average, on a Sunday. Yeah. But then again, I didn't see the rest of the congregation flying in their new jets, a new Citation 10, a Gulfstream 6. But God's very good. He'll prosper you. He'll heal you. He'll deliver you. To what? It always amazes me that we live in a reality where we never want to assess responsibility for all this. Someone taught us, or we're just inherently flawed. And so what do? Well, it's the reemergence of pagan beliefs. And it's interesting because the whole point of this book here is that in the United States, we live under this false illusion that there is religious freedom, that there are religious liberties, only if you fit one demographic. I often wonder, Republicans, Democrats out there, that how many pagans do you cater towards? But yet, I would probably put it out there, we're the majority. Why don't we have Donald Trump addressing paganism? Why doesn't Joe Biden come out and address the pagans? Could you see the news? Joe Biden invited some of the leading pagan believers and what have you to the White House. Donald Trump had a private meeting with the pagan representatives. The problem is with that is we don't know who those pagans are representing because actually, to be quite literally, no one pagan actually represents another pagan. We may have commonality of thought, maybe even beliefs, but you don't see that, do you? However, what you do see on the emerging streaming platforms is that paganism, are you ready for this? Accounts for almost 50% of all production. Pagan. Now, if you take that and you find out who the demographic is that's watching those shows, now you can begin to see a correlation. It is said that Generation Z is probably one of the most pagan generations we've ever seen. And that is an outgrowth because the millennials began to see the baby boomers, who the baby boomers really were the ones who began to, with the reassertion of pagan ideas. Woodstock could be called one of the biggest pagan gatherings of its kind in subsequent large gatherings again. And out of that, there was this opposition force, which was called the charismatic movement, that came against that. And it worked for a couple of decades. But the problem is it never has enough sustainable force or energy. But yet the pagan belief is always there. It's never gone away. Why, the church is persecuted. They tried to kill all the pagans, and they began to find out that if you start killing all the pagans, you're going to be killing all the people. So you had to instill fear because their God is a God of fear, death, destruction. You leave the pagans alone, we're not going to destroy anything. And if you look at the wars, there have always been religious wars about this goddamn God that came from the fucking Middle East, and somehow or another, this fucking God is the right God. And at the result of that, billions of innocent souls have been slaughtered in the name of this God or its associates. Scotty Boy asks a good question. The question is, how many pagans do you know who admit to being pagan? They won't come out. Why? We've been persecuted. Do you think the Republican Party is going to court the pagans? No. But yet I would dare say that a vast majority of Republicans are pagans. Closet pagans. Nevertheless, they're pagan. I dare say that the same thing rides with independents and Democrats. No one is going to admit that they happen to like Lucifer. I think she's a beautiful gal. I ain't going to admit that. You're right, Scotty. Yeah. You know. Well, Bonnie says, why do we have to pay again? That all of us live in this environment. And it impacts you. Every one of you, I see the comments. My second says prophecy is proof. Prophecy is not fucking proof of anything. What you're telling me then is that a human being can go into the future and see the future and come back and prophesy about it? Now, I'm not calling you out my second for anything, but when you come out with that, then you have to back that up. So you're saying humans can time travel? Or are you saying that fate has already been decided? Because if you believe in prophecy, then your existence means nothing. Well, I can read the end of the book. I hope that person realizes that. Not picking on them. Many of these pagans themselves have claimed Christ. Only your maker knows the true content of your... Really? So you're telling me that this invisible God knows my heart? I don't know. I've been here a long time, and I find that the vast majority of people I know don't know themselves. And then they're conflicted. Hard discussion. Not going to get 100% on this one on the thumbs up. Rick says, isn't channeling going getting the messages from beyond? Question mark. I mean, time only flows one way. You can't go to the past. And so that means a person who sees the future cannot come into the past unless this is all a simulation. It's a grand play, as Mr. Bacon would say, excuse me, Shakespeare. This whole thing is nothing more than a stage. We each have our roles to play, but don't think for a second that you're going to change the play. No. And Nina, I don't even know about the Anunnaki. You can't show me a picture of one. We got the things that we've seen in Sumer, what have you, but those are our interpretation. We don't know. And then Stitchin really fucked the whole thing up with the Sumerians. I know. I was a sucker that bought his books. Convictions is a funny word. Do you consider yourself a person of convictions? And if so, how many have you been convicted? I mean, even the word pagan is in today internet technology data. The internet is a weapon. I keep saying that, and I always will say it. The internet was a weapon from the day one, and it was never meant for our mutual benefit. The internet has introduced mass chaos, a schism within every human being that's connected to it. Because in the internet, there is no truth. There's no lie. Jay all supposedly says, we have no clue if we can travel backwards or forwards. We each have unique abilities. I'm just saying from the physical laws. We can't prove it in a lab. Now, I'm not saying that that is the everything. All I'm saying is in physics, our physics in this realm where we're at, we can't see that. We can't prove it because a photon decays. A photon doesn't relight itself. A photon is in constant decay. Quintessential pagan says vulgar, rustic, civilian, non-combatant. Well, it's real interesting. Again, this is a discussion, and I look at the diverse amount of comments here alone on this subject, because this is not one that, again, it would probably work well in a TED Talk, but you've got people that are so lane bound. They can't see in the other lane. They can only see in theirs. And anything that tries to encroach upon that is rejected. Blazon says, or the internet has exposed what is truly real and unreal. Some say tomato, some say tomato. I don't know. So, do you know that there is, in fact, a pagan Bible? Yeah. I think this was written in 1960 something. I found it really interesting. It's on here. So this is by Melvin Goram, privately published in 1962. And I just thought we'd have a little fun with this. So the contents in the introduction, part one, orientation, definition of religion, the emotional color of paganism, the barbarian attitude, our interest in religions, and the nature of religions, the extent religious culture forces, the analytical and interperspective of religions, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Taoism, Shinto, Western science. because I was born in the West. The West is fucked up, man. I mean, you go back and you study history. Wow, we we really messed up with the recipe. The religions of expedient ethics, Confucianism, ethical Christian democracy. So you not this guy got this thing called National Christianism, the National Christian Party. Okay. I guess we couldn't have the National Luciferian Party, could we? Hey, that shit ain't going to go over. The dogmatic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Mohammedanism, and popular materialism. Western philosophy. Part 2, concepts of knowing and sources of knowledge, the 6 disciplines of man's being. The first discipline, awareness, the universe of time. The second discipline, objectification of awareness, the universe of space. The third discipline, automation of the subconscious matter. Fourth discipline, abdiction of control, organic life. Yeah. Fifth discipline, assurance of diversity, sex. That's one thing I have found out all the time. For 50 years, I was in this religion of Christianity, reading the Bible, never realizing that these gods that they're writing about are sexual deviants. Well, let me say deviant is probably the wrong word. They seem to be obsessed with sex. The sixth discipline, approbation of diversity, man, a speculation regarding further disciplines, the pagan concept, of reality viewed from the perspectives of Christianity, Western psychology, and Western science. The pagan concept of the good life, the first stratum of being, the second stratum of being, all the way down to the sixth. The problem of creating a pagan society. Yeah. If you look in the past, it looks like there were times when there were these outposts of pagan communities that thrived, but yeah, and the Crusaders came through. Okay, part 1, orientation, definition of religion. A religion is a concept of the cause, reality, and purpose of the universe, and a conscious attempt to obtain harmony with that reality and aid that purpose. There are so many definitions of religion as there are commentaries on the subject, and we are exercising the usual prerogative of redefining the word. By this broad definition, we place all concepts of the universe, including those offered by Western science and Western philosophy, as well as those based on beliefs in God, creatures, in one category. This enables us to look at all men's purposes from the same perspective. Locating the real point for that perspective is one of our major concerns. The emotional color of paganism. This is a book of religion. It recognizes the major institutional religions of the world. And that's the point here. They're institutions. But its purpose is not simply to give condensed information about them in such broad generalities as to be acceptable to all. Nor is its purpose to ride the tide of current religious thought by deftly mixing the turning about the beliefs of various religions. It's an interesting, guys. I just want to stop right there. Let me just finish the sentence. It says, throwing them facets of color, light, like a kaleidoscope. It's interesting because Christianity itself is changing. In most metaphysical thoughts, you would almost say it a form of Christianity. It has the Christ consciousness, the Christ center. If people would only be honest, if that was real, it would have been all over the world by now. In action, not words. Do. Throwing that out to a particular person. This pisses them off when I do that. Nor is its purpose to ride the tide, excuse me. in the hope of bringing a feeling of elastic radiance to the devoutly confused. There we go. Its purpose is to examine the validity of concepts, the direction and efficiency of men's purpose, and finally to set forth a systematic concept of the universe together with a morality derived from that concept as the basis for a living religion. And that is part of this whole issue we have here in the United States. Wherever there's a public school that allows a prayer club, there should be a Satan club, a Lucifer club, a club of Kali. There should be a wide acceptance of all beliefs. Therefore, as a young mind is developing, they can have at least the perception of not just one thought, but how many other thoughts are attained to that. Again, if there is a 10 Commandments, anything, any scripture, then by the letter of the law, you should allow every satanic, every Luciferian. Now, people say, well, and they argued on this in the Oklahoma Senate, by the way, that, well, you'd let all these loonies in. Well, so then you have to now define what is a valid religious belief. And the one who's judging what the valid religious belief is to be is already the one that's controlling the narrative. Yeah. This religion is called pagan. It is not consciously evolved from the fragmentary remains of what was once called paganism and what is now neatly entombed under the heading of Greek, Roman, German, Scandinavian, Chinese, Japanese, and early Indian mythology. It takes the name pagan not because its concepts are obviously those of the pagan era, but in an acknowledgement of its spiritual heritage. Bingo. This is crucially important in the legal debate. Because if your belief system has a spiritual heritage, then that now puts you in a different classification. But the whole thing here in the argument that was brought out in the book, Speaking of the Devil, was the fact that you cannot have Christianity without Satanism. So therefore, Satanism is as legitimate as Christianity. And believe it or not, in a legal court of law, they couldn't argue it. The concepts contained in religions that were once dynamic enough to act as evolutionary catalyst in the development of Indo-European man have been mutilated and distorted by writers with a dogmatically fixed perspectives until their remains are placed alongside Mother Goose tales without offending the general sense of propriety. We could perhaps reconstruct something of great significance from these mutilated conceptual fragments that children now keep in their toy boxes as a paleontologist, reconstructs prehistory animals from 2 teeth and a splinter of jawbone found among the assortments of ornaments on the necklace of a savage. But we are content to let the portions of the past that are dead remain dead. This is a book about a living religion, not a dead mythology. Pagan is often defined as a religion other than Judaism, Christianity, and Mohammedanism. By that definition, the religion set forth here is unquestionably pagan. But its claim to be the title is not because it simply contains ideas other than those contained in these 3 religions, but because it is based on something living that has survived in the being of man. Physical evolution is slower to be affected by the influence of new dogmas than is the religious literature of a people. And so, despite inquisitions and social pressure, the dogmas that have triumphed over paganism have yet not fully triumphed over the pagan. There is a heritage of spirit in certain living beings that can be recognized as pagan without a reference to or claim heritage from the well-known pagan mythologies. In the popular concept, pagans are often associated with bloody deeds, but it is not the bloody deeds that identify the pagan spirit. The Mohammedans, frankly, spread their religion with a sword, just as early Christianity did. The path of Judaism is a path of blood split in the lust and treachery. And Christianity, despite the teachings of its founder, came to flower through a blood path of such magnitude as to show that his followers placed little reliance on the few pints of blood spilled by Jesus to purify the world. Recent wars also have shown little reluctance on the part of Christians to break their sixth commandment. So, clearly, it is not a readiness to spill blood that distinguishes a pagan. In the historical behavior of the pagan, there was a freedom from inhibitions and a robust love of life, whether expressed in eating, drinking, fighting, loving, singing, dancing, or perceiving God. And that was unique and characteristic. This spirit was born of a special concept of the cause and purpose of the universe, which is unfathomable to those who create gods that are either vengeful or sad-eyed or mournful. It is this spirit that we seek to recognize in calling our religion pagan. Those who wish to do some can trace the conceptual and ascendant, of the religion set forth herein. Though the desecrated fragments of mythology to the Indo-European man of prehistory. But the point will not be emphasized. This work wishes to claim no authority from the antiquity of its concepts. The authority of its concepts rests solely in the ring of validity in the consciousness of he who perceives them. Wow. Important stuff. I have a passion for this. Not like that can be seen. We just got to change, folks. The same path we're going on isn't working out. And to fundamentally disregard or refuse ideas, concepts that are counter to the societal norms of today is just another trap. Now, I use colorful language in describing some of this, yeah, but it's used for more effect than anything else. But the point remains. We can't have freedom of thought, freedom of idea, if we fundamentally classify thoughts and ideas that have been already framed by an already perceived way of thinking. And to accept the foundation that there is a Satan, to me, is preposterous, because then you might as well just go ahead and call yourself a Christian. The two can't exist without each other. For myself, I find it interesting. But more and more, it's like, I don't want either part of it. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I don't care to be either one of those parties. I'm independent. And if I'm independent in that, now they're classifying us as a group of that, but I would extend that to the same thing where religion is concerned. Is there deities? Absolutely. Is there a singleness of consciousness? I believe there is. I don't believe it's a God, because I believe it's above a God. All gods that I've read about have been created by man. No God has manifested before the world. No God ever. Now, if there's one that decides to show up, then I think we need to, and number one, vet it, do the background check, and then we need a discussion because this is a mess here. Maybe that's why we invent these gods. Maybe that's why we invent saviors, messiahs, to deliver us out of our own ideas. It's easier that way. Someone else will take the responsibility and the power. But I contend we individually can do that individually and then come together. As I said on Friday, could you imagine the pagan party? The party of the Luciferians? It should be. I mean, in the House of Commons in the United Kingdom, you're diverse. Why isn't the party of the Satanists there? Why aren't the party of the Luciferians there? Maybe they might have a better idea than the Christian left or the Christian right. Just a thought. I mean, maybe they might really have a something that, well, that might work. So anyway, Scotty Boy says, well, if one shows up here, she can kiss my ass. I hear you on that. But hey, I appreciate all of you. And I look at most of you, it's not a lot of minds can handle this because they just go berserk. It's like, did you hear what he said? Yeah, that's why the channel is selective in the growth. Let's see. Abbott says he's coming before Yeshua returns. You will worship him. Fuck you on that. I won't, Abbott. I don't mean to be rude, but that's bullshit. You don't know if a Yeshua existed. You have no evidence of that. There's nothing written about it. But it's odd. Why don't you find out with the one guy that was there, Vespasian? Why don't we read what he wrote? He wrote. I know I probably pissed that person off. Abbott didn't mean anything, but I ain't worshiping anybody. Why would a God want worshipers? They'd be the most pathetic thing you could do. Woo. Susie Q is right there. I'm not going to worship anything. If Jesus existed, he would reject Christianity. He would condemn it to hell. He would say it's blasphemous. Mark says Wayne gave the required response. Like I said, I didn't mean to be pissing you off, Abbott. Don't take offense at it. It's just that you wrote it, so if you write it, I have the right to comment on it. Just like you have the right to comment on what I'm saying. Door swings both ways. Love this group. All right, Abbott, that's cool. See that's a good open mind. I dig that, man. All right, brother. We can laugh. We have to laugh at ourselves. I mean, because I don't have the answers. I'm like the rest of you. I got my ideas, and I got my little garden. But in the bigger sense of things, I don't know. You know, Again, everything I've read has been written by a man. And I'm supposed to say that witchcraft, channeling, and all that is wrong, but that's the only message that's being brought. That's confusing within itself. Okay. Robert V. Why would a god need to pee on subjects he would have? uh, Bright group here. All right. I'll be with the ladies tomorrow, and Wednesday I'm going to have Judith on. So, hey, Gaia, what's up? Good to see you, darling. Brandy, hello. Um, Gilbert, what's that? And they can't do it without the collection plate either. That's the craziest religion I've ever seen. It's like, hey, you know, salvation ain't free. You've got the tithe. Remember that. And I'm thinking, so God charges a tax? All right, sure. Grace, you're right. The indoctrination runs deep, way down there. Uh, I love y'all. So I went over a bit, but again, thank you. And I do appreciate y'all are we're a unique group. I'll put it that way. A very unique group. Hello, Lost in Space. How are you? Uh, well, thank you, Robert V. Right over there at the Milky Way Soul Tribe channel. Love your programming. Anyway, thank you, Grace. I love you guys. Hey, Mr. Floyd, what's up? Thank you, Gaia. Right back at you. Tell Paul, hey. We're doing much better this week than we did last week, huh? There we go. Yeah. Bonnie, thank you, darling. All right, everyone, until we meet again. All right, thank you. And